Hello everyone, welcome back to another redstone shopping tutorial. Today we're going to be going over one of my older, but still one of my favorite redstone creations, and that is a real working vending machine. So here it is behind me. As you can see, it looks exactly like a vending machine, and this would fit in perfectly to a gas station or a subway station or any spot like that where a real vending machine would go. This also has all the functionality of a real shop, so it'll take in diamonds and put out items depending on what the customer wants. This one here can sell two different types of items. In this case we got it set up for ender pearls and steak. And the payment barrel is right here, so they put in diamonds here, press a button for what they want, it will take a diamond out, and then dispense however much stock you want it to into this barrel here. So this shop is also relatively compact. However, when you go for compactness and design, a lot of times you lose out on a little bit of functionality, and in this case we're losing out on the fact that it doesn't have any stock keeping. So if this machine does run out of diamonds, the customer will still take a diamond out, but they won't get any stock out, and it has no way of letting it know. So if you were to build this shop, you need to check on it every once in a while and watch it a little closer than any of the other ones, just because you don't want people losing their diamonds. So this kind of machine runs based off the fact that when you have a dropper being powered by a torch burnout clock like this, it will fire exactly 8 times. So here you can see we have an empty chest and a dropper full of items. Whenever we flick this lever, it'll push the block over, which will start the torch burnout clock. So what happens here is the torch will power the block will power the redstone will power the block beneath it, and that'll turn the torch off. So this makes a really fast-paced clock. The problem with this is that it does not last forever. A torch will burn out after 8 flicks. So you can see here, it'll run like this, and the torch will burn out. And this will shoot 8 items into the chest. And we can do this however many times we want just by resetting it and triggering the system again. So we use that in the back here to actually dispense the items into the hopper chain in the center. I'll show you over on this one here how the actual system works. So what happens is we have a normal item filter in the bottom here that works in combination with our button panel up front. So the item filter just makes sure that only diamonds will enter the system. We can show that here by placing diamonds in. Now it actually doesn't take a diamond until the customer decides which item they want to buy. So if I were to press the bottom button or the top button, it would trigger one of these 2 note blocks, which then will trigger these 2 observers, and this acts as an OR gate. So if the top observer is triggered or the bottom observer is triggered, that sticky piston will push downwards. What this does is it pushes this observer downwards, which then powers this block right here, and we just have some repeaters to carry the signal back to this torch, which powers this redstone line, and when this unpowers, it'll let one item flow through the item filter. So the item filter will trigger once, which does 2 things. First of all, it will trigger this redstone dust here, because that's right next to the actual redstone torch block, which then carries the signal back to this pulse extender. And this pulse extender will then turn on and stay on for however long the shop needs to. So what happens here is we get an output from the pulse extender through this torch, which then carries itself upwards over through here, and we'll turn these 2 pistons, these non-sticky pistons, off, which pulls them back and lets these sticky pistons push their blocks forward, which will trigger the droppers on the side here. So in order to actually trigger these sticky pistons, we just have an output coming directly from these note blocks. So on the top here you can see when this note block gets triggered, this observer detects that and shoots this block forward, but it will only shoot forward if a diamond has come into this system, since this piston will still be extended if no payment has entered. For this other sticky piston in the back here for the other type of item, we just have an observer chain coming back. So you can see when this note block is activated, it activates this observer, which then goes into this one, and then runs all the way back, pushing this block across. So in order to make sure that the actual system will reset, we have this little redstone circuit on top, which will just make sure this block gets pulled backwards in time for this piston to re-extend. And that just makes sure that we don't actually break any redstone from blocks being pushed where they don't need to go. So to get started with this tutorial, you're going to need to gather the materials in this chest. You can see we have the normal assortment of redstone components, with a couple extra things here for decoration. I found that for behind the glass part here, black concrete or gray concrete looks good, so you're going to need some dark colored blocks for there. And then to show what you're actually selling, you can use 2 item frames, signs, or whatever other way you need. You do need any type of wood button, so 2 oak buttons would work, but it could also be birch, spruce, dark oak, or any of those. You also need 2 of any colored solid block, so this could be a terracotta, it could be concrete, wool, it just has to be able to be powered. And this also goes in correlation with your shulker boxes that you could use for the payment, and the carpet that goes on top just to make it look sealed off. So this can be any color of carpet, looks best if it matches your colored solid block and your shulker boxes. But you could also use any color of glass in the front, so the actual glass part where the item frames go on can be any color, that doesn't really matter, just decoration. And finally, your 2 shulker boxes that you use for payment could also be swapped out for barrels. The reason why we don't use chests here is just because a chest's hitbox is slightly smaller than a block. So if we place a chest here, you'll see that the customer will actually be able to reach through here and access your item filter and change what it is. Another reason is if we have a chest in this location, you won't be able to open it because of the solid block on top. So to get started with your area you need to dig out an area that is 7 blocks long by 7 blocks deep with an extra block on the floor. That's just for the extra layer of redstone on the bottom. And then 4 blocks wide. The front of the vending machine, you can kind of base it off this, goes at this height here, which is 4 blocks above the floor of your hole, and then centered in this direction. So to get started here, we're going to place in all of our decorations first. So let's grab some shulker boxes, maybe lime. We'll also grab some carpeting and some concrete, some colored glass, and some dark blocks. We'll just use black concrete. So we'll come over to our area over here, build up 4 from the bottom for temporary blocks. Then place 2 more temporary blocks in the back like this, and place your shulker boxes against it like that. Then we can remove all those, and now we have the front of our vending machine started. You can place 2 blocks, these are the solid blocks, above this shulker box, 2 glass above the other one, and then top it off with carpet. And then lastly, we'll place 2 black or dark colored blocks in the back. Now all we need is some buttons. So let's use birch buttons, because it's just any type of wood button. Place them there. And the item frame, last but not least, will go right here. So that's the front of our vending machine complete. Now we can add in the item filter to make sure we only take in diamonds. So what we'll do is we'll come down 1 block below that shulker box and place the chest. This is where all of your diamonds will end up in. Then we'll place 2 hoppers facing sideways like that. And then just put in a standard item filter off the back here. So we'll put blocks in this shape, punch out the center, put a redstone torch there, repeater there, and a comparator here, and just put 2 desks there. Now as per usual, we'll fill up our item filter, so that way it only accepts the diamonds. 18 in the second slot, with 1 in the rest. Then we'll grab our payment, so it could be diamonds, diamond blocks, whatever you feel like. Put 2 in the first slot, and the system's all set up and ready to go. So next what we need to do is add in the logic circuitry for the bottom section of the machine. So to do that, first what we'll do is we'll place a block right here next to our item filter, place 1 there and 1 there, so we make this zigzag shape. Next what we'll do is we'll place 2 blocks facing upward here and here. Then we need to put a redstone dust there, and then a repeater facing back this way, and a repeater facing there. Next we'll add in the pulse extender in the back. So we'll place 5 blocks in this orientation, with the dust there, there, and there. Then we need to make sure that this does not connect up to our item filter, because we don't want it breaking that. So we'll just place a block on top to prevent it from connecting there. Next, place a comparator facing that way, and a comparator facing that way. Then just place a block here to complete this pulse extender. So then you place a redstone torch against that block right there, then build up 1 block with the torch on top, and 1 more, so that way this torch stays on. Next what we'll do is we'll build over 2 blocks this direction, and place 3 dust across the top. So then we place a block on top of that repeater with a torch facing out of it. We then stack up the torches again going this way, so that one turns off. Then 1 more block with a torch on top. So next, this is where our pistons will go, so you can place a normal piston facing that way, and a normal piston facing this way. So next we need to add in our button panel logic. So we'll start by adding in our 2 note blocks here next to the black concrete, then place observers facing out of those. So next, after that, place a sticky piston facing downwards right there, with an observer facing into the center of the machine right here. Next, when this gets pushed down, we need it to trigger the circuit. So what we'll do is we'll place a block there to power it, then bring back the circuit this way, or bring back the signal this way, with a repeater on 2 ticks here, a repeater on 1 tick there, and a redstone torch right here. So now we need to bring the signal back to the front of the machine to lock the item filter. So we'll place 3 dusts there, that run into a block, 2 more blocks next to the item filter, with a solid block here. And this solid block is actually part of the floor on the outside of the vending machine, as shown right here. So whatever your floor material is on the outside, you can place that here right now. Next we'll place 2 repeaters here and here, next to the item filter, and that completes that part. So now what we need to do is the actual internal circuitry. So what we'll do is we'll grab our hoppers and run a hopper chain facing into that shulker box towards the back of the machine right here, like this. Then 1 hopper up right there. So we can add in our droppers now. We'll stack them up here and here, facing into the hoppers, and then the same thing over on this side. There and there. So now throw redstone dust on top of each of your droppers, and then put a redstone torch facing into the piston head like this. And then on the back side we'll do the same thing here. Next what we'll do is add in the circuitry that will push the sticky pistons forward and actually trigger our redstone droppers. So we'll have an observer facing out here, with 3 facing backward into a block. Place a sticky piston on top of that block facing this way, and place a sticky piston in front of that observer facing this way. Next we can add in the 2 blocks here and here, and that completes that part. Now we just need to make sure we have the resetting circuit on top, otherwise this block here will get pushed over and break this redstone. So to do that, we'll place an observer facing back towards us here, then a block with a repeater on 3 ticks. That goes into another block with another repeater on 3 ticks, into another block. Finally we'll place a sticky piston facing backwards, and an observer facing this direction here. So we need to go over one last thing before we wrap up for the day, and that's how to change how many items your shop is selling. So since each dropper will shoot out 8 items apiece, by default this sells 16 items for 1 diamond. So in order to change that, it's as simple as removing the bottom dropper and just having 1 dropper. So then you can have 8 items or 16 items on the side. On the back, it's actually a little bit more flexible, and you can get between 8 and 32 items. So for 8, you just remove this bottom dropper. For 16, leave it as is. But for 24 and 32, you're going to need a few small changes. So first of all, you need to remove that repeater in that block and replace it with a hopper facing that way and a hopper facing downwards into it. So what this will do is now we can place our 24 item dropper here and place redstone on top to make sure that it gets powered. Then we can place our repeater back in. So now we have 3 droppers in the back, and this will add up to a total of 24 items. For the full 32, or for a full half stack, you need to place a 4th and final dropper right here facing into the bottom hopper. So now we have 4 droppers in the back, which adds up to 32 items. So another note to consider when you're stacking up your shop is that you need to stack up each dropper with a number that's evenly divisible by 8. So if we were to example put 16 items into this top dropper on the side here, the first time it gets triggered, it'll take out 8 items. So the customer will get the proper 8 items per dropper. The next time we trigger it, they'll also get the full 8. And then the dropper will be empty. But if we were to put in a number, for example, like 19, the first time it gets triggered, we will get 8 out. The second time it gets triggered, we will get 8 out. But the third time it gets triggered, the customer will only get 3 out. So they'll be shortchanged, and it's not good to shortchange your customers. So you just make sure you have a number that's divisible by 8. So 16, 32, 48, 64 is the easiest to keep track of. So we'll load that up like this. And then lastly, when you're configuring your item frames at the top here, the top button corresponds to the side dropper here. So if we put redstone in the side, we can show that we have redstone there by just putting a redstone dust here. And if we were to put something in the back, like let's say repeaters, so we'll fill this up, making sure this is all divisible by 8, so 64 in each, why not? And we'll put a repeater in this bottom item frame, because that is what corresponds to the back set of droppers. So this should be completely working and all set up. We'll grab some diamonds out of here, and we'll test it out. So if we put some diamonds in, we'll see they don't get taken out, because we haven't chosen what we want yet. If we press the top button, we'll see the system trigger in the back, like this. And then over time, we'll get all 16 redstone dusts that we ordered out. Just like this. Now we still have 63 diamonds in, because the system only takes out 1. So if we wanted repeaters, we'll press this button, and you see the system will trigger again. And the back does take a little bit longer because there's a few more hoppers it has to go through. So we'll see over time, this will stack up to 32. And there it is. So, that's the shop all the way done. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed and would like to see more redstone tutorials.